It's your beliefs that actually create your actions, your thoughts, your responses to things. And so when we look at changing our lives, when we try to do that through just changing our thoughts, it's not sustainable long term, because that's not where the real action is coming from. It's coming from these deep seated beliefs.
So true story, I would not be here in this room right now in Los Angeles had it not been for your encouragement. And you're such a powerful manifester.
Yeah.
You were just saying it so matter of factly, like when you move to LA this, when you move to LA that.
Yeah.
And thus here I am.
Here you are. Do you love it?
It's been a little weird since I've been here.
Okay, well, fair point. Fair point.
But I love being closer to you guys and, just all of the incredible people here.
Yeah.
And obviously the weather is pretty awesome. Even on a complicated day, there's still palm trees and sunshine.
Yeah.
So
You're not in St. Louis anymore.
yeah, I know. Last time you were in St. Louis, we had Indian food in the back of a truck.
We tailgated Indian food at your son's football game.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is I still have on the weather app on my phone St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
It's and I think about you every time I pop it up to scroll, because I'm back and forth between LA and Portland, and so every time I scroll through, St. Louis comes up.
See,
So
we're so integrated in each other's lives. Even the glasses that every guest drinks out of when they come in the show, these are glasses
right.
that you gave
I know
me as a gift.
What would you do without me?
I don't know.
I don't know what I would do without you and Anne. Can we just
I'm
give a
saying,
shout out to
yeah.
Anne?
So we've already agreed that if something should happen to me,
If you're hit by a train walking across Melrose,
or I don't know if you've seen Shang-Chi, but this Marvel movie is like a massive bus scene. It's like, if any of that happens, you get to have Anne.
I'm taking Anne.
Yeah.
I got dibs.
So obviously, like I said, it's been complicated since I've been here.
Yeah.
And I think that people's experiences over the past year and a half plus have largely been a result of their pre-existing experiences, their pre-existing
Right.
stories
Right.
about themselves and
Yeah.
about life in general. So this is one of the things I wanted to talk with you about, because you're able to really take a meta perspective, because I know a lot of folks are going through a lot of different, turbulence, changes.
Yeah.
And can you speak to that, how our experiences, even at times like these, have a lot to do with our pre-existing stories about ourselves and about the world?
Yeah, for sure. So it's definitely been a volatile time, and a lot of people were thrown out of their comfort zone. And that resulted in a lot of things. As you know, we saw issues with mental health skyrocket, suicide rates skyrocketed. People were at home with nothing but their thoughts and their feelings and their emotions. And it's funny, I had a friend of mine call me up. She was also a coaching client. And she was like, I just need something to do. And I was busy at the time. And I said, I would just watch something on Netflix. And she said, I finished it. I was like,
what?
Like all of Netflix? You just finished it? But and we did that, right? We Netflix, we did all the things. But then at some point that gets old, and it's just us and our thoughts and our feelings about ourselves, about our past, about where we're going or what we're doing or where we're not going or what we're not doing, right? And so I think what's happening now is we've had a bit of time to get some perspective, and to really look at our lives and to reevaluate, what are we doing, and what is this one precious life going to be for us. But you're right, not to get off track, because we do have stories that we've created and been telling since, we were children. And we know through narrative psychology, which is kind of the study of how we tell ourselves these stories, that we make up stories to explain things that happen to us. And then we just decide that they're true. And then those stories become rooted as beliefs. People like to think, oh, your thoughts create your reality. Spoiler alert, they don't. It's your beliefs that actually create your actions, your thoughts, your responses to things. And so when we look at changing our lives, and when we try to do that through just changing our thoughts, it's not sustainable long term, because that's not where the real action is coming from. It's coming from these deep seated beliefs that we have. And again, no one has decided that they're true except for us. So just yesterday, I was coaching our students at ITN. I go live and I coach them on building their business. They bring their questions. And we have one student who popped on, and she's new to the course, and big fan of yours, by the way. And she said, I'm just getting started, and she had a question about pricing. And she said, I don't know what to price my services or my coaching packages at because, what you've priced yours at, like I can't price mine that high. I'm not as smart as you. I don't know enough as you. I'm not an expert yet like you. And she got the yet in. I was very proud of her growth mindset, right? But I was like, oh, wait a minute. That's a story, right? Like you've told yourself this story that you're not as much of an expert, and maybe not as much of an expert in transformational nutrition. I've been doing it for 20 years. But this woman comes from the construction industry, and she has been through some stuff in her life, like we all have, right? And so she's learned so much through her experience. She's made it through 100% of her hardest wallow on the floor, life can't go on moments. And she has some stuff to share. She is absolutely an expert. But she had told herself this story that she wasn't, that she couldn't charge rates that she wanted to charge. And then she just believed it. It's not like the pricing police came in and was like, nope, you're right. Yeah, not yet, right? You can't charge that. She was the only one who decided it was true. And we do that. And unfortunately, our success, our happiness, our health is all determined by those stories. And until we learn how to rewrite them for good, we're stuck. We're stuck in these perpetual cycles, right? Starting, stopping, starting, stopping. And so here we are.
This is so true because if we really look at it for ourselves and also in the lives of other people during this time, especially when we're under pressure. And I remember it was Wayne Dyer who made the analogy, when you squeeze an orange, what comes out of it, right? It's going to be orange juice. What's going to come out is what's in it.
Right.
What happens when life squeezes you?
Right.
What's going to come out of it? It's what's already in you. So during this time, I believe that worriers worried, fighters fought, people who were, empathed, they felt, and it's because of our pre-existing experiences and what we bring forward. I do believe that some of this is in our DNA, but I also believe that humans are not just a product of our environment. We're creators of our environment. We're creators of our experience. Yeah. We can choose to be more of a fighter. We can choose to be more of a worrier. We can choose to be more empathetic. These are all things that we can kind of cultivate. So with that being said, how do the stories that we tell ourselves outpicture themselves into the world around us?
That's such a great question. So, and before we dive into that, I also want to say what you said is so true. When we were alone, we did these things, empath, they felt, we all kind of did our default response. The other really interesting thing that was happening is that we found ourselves again coming face to face with ourselves. And when we're out and about, when we're all hanging out, we have mirror neurons, right? And this, it's just brain science. So if I show up to your house and you're kind of in a crummy mood, I'm going to feel that. And my neurons want to mirror that, right? It's why they say, you are an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, because it's true. And so what we do in groups oftentimes is we'll say, well, what do you think? Or we'll go along with the group consensus. Or, even if we want to do something different and somebody says, let's go to a movie, we go to a movie, right? Because we don't want to upset the apple cart, so to speak. And so we weren't able to do that. And so a lot of people were left wondering well, what do I want? What do I want to eat? What do I want to do? Do I like this podcast? Or do I actually like this movie that I'm watching on Netflix?
Do I like this person I'm with?
Do I like this person I'm with, right? And so we had to really have those hard conversations. And for a lot of us, that was almost too hard at times. That's where the mental health concerns came in. But you're right. Our stories, the things that make them so powerful is we're not always aware of them. The majority of the time, we're not aware of them. So it's kind of like an iceberg, right? 10% of it is above water, but those 90% just kind of run. And we don't always notice them, but they are having a huge impact on our decisions. So here's what people don't always think about. And again, it's just neuroscience. when you're given an opportunity, you'll just make a decision immediately, and that's done unconsciously through your stories. Or you'll take an action unconsciously, right? And then you'll logically back it up with what you just did, which was driven by these old stories, these old beliefs that you had, right? So we like to think we're making decisions when we're not. What's happening is we made a decision when we were 7 or 8 years old, and that's running the show now, and you're just thinking that you're actually in the driver's seat, and you back it up with logic and reason, and you do those things. But it's so important, and that's why it's so important to know how to go back and rewrite these old stories. Because if you don't, you're forever trapped with an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old's stories running your life. And I don't know about you. You were probably super evolved at that age. I was not. I was not at that level. So it's not a good idea. You know, we have limiting beliefs that keep us stuck. But again, the good news is we can rewrite them.
Yeah, you were just telling me a story about you guys, being in a situation where you didn't have a lot of money at all, and you cooked a frozen pizza on a kerosene heater. Right? So you're coming from these conditions.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that there were some stories that took place in your life that you had no idea it was affecting you later.
Yeah.
And outpicturing itself and seemingly kind of maybe even sabotaging things in your life.
Oh my gosh, over and over and over. To this day, I still struggle with stories. So I'll tell you a story that really set the course of my life. I didn't know it at the time, but I'll share it with you. I don't know if I've told you this story or not. So I woke up on the morning of my 8th birthday, and I was as excited as a girl on her 8th birthday. Like it was my birthday, and I'm a kid. And so I got so excited, and I thought, it's my day, it's my time. Now, you mentioned we were really poor, and it's funny, sometimes I hear people say, oh, we were so poor, but I didn't realize it because we had love. I realized, I knew, right? And we didn't have that kind of love. There was a lot of domestic abuse in my family. My dad actually shot my mother in front of me. He tried to murder her multiple times, and fortunately never quite succeeded. But we went through a lot when I was young, a lot of abuse. I was abused physically, emotionally, sexually, starting at just the age of 5. I didn't have running water in my house. We had an old outhouse, rain, snow, or shine. So, but I was, dirt poor, but ready for more. So anyways, I didn't expect much waking up that morning, right? But it was my birthday, so I thought, if I don't get a present, maybe I'll get a cake. But somebody will say something at least, even if that doesn't happen. So I'm like all groggy-eyed, and I crawl out of my little bed, and I walk into the living room, and I can feel my feet on just this threadbare, like black carpet that we had gotten from somewhere. And my mom is sitting in there, and she's having her morning cigarette and cup of coffee and doing her thing. And there's smoke in the air, and I smell it when I walk in. And she doesn't say anything, and I don't have a gift, and there's no cake and I thought, that's all right. They're going to surprise me later, right? And so the day goes on, and I read. I read a lot at that time. I played outside in the woods behind my house. I'm sure I fought with my sister, but no one said anything. And I thought, okay, well, any minute now they're going to come down, and maybe we'll take a ride down the old river road and play in the creek. That'll be a nice treat. Nothing happened. And so the day starts turning into the night, and I know it's going to be time to go to bed soon. And I'm starting to get a little freaked out, right? I'm like, yo, it's my birthday. And so I'm nervous now. I'm anxious. And I go up to my mom in this living room again, and I just blurted out. I say, do I have a present? And she looks at me and she says, why would you get a present? And I said, oh, well, because it's my birthday. And I'll never forget this. She just looked at me with this dead look in her eye, and her lip curled a little. And she said, so? And in that moment, my story was written. And it simply read, you're not special, and you don't deserve anything, like even on your birthday. Because I thought, okay, well, if my mother doesn't remember my birthday, it's a pretty good indication that I'm not special, right? And clearly I don't deserve anything. So that was the explanation that I gave for this event that happened. And I carried that through my entire life. And I still, even though I've rewritten that story and I'm conscious of it, there are still times when I'm like, oh gosh, am I special enough to do this? And I've done some pretty remarkable things in my career that I'm super proud of. But every time the phone would ring, do you want to be on this TV? I'm like, ooh, me? Like, am I gonna, do I deserve this? And so it's something that we constantly have to focus on rewriting, because if we don't, these stories will rule our lives. And the other thing that happens is once we write these stories, we need for them to be true. And especially when we're children, because if they're not, then we're not safe. If we can't understand the world and we can't fit things into, these perfectly formed shapes and cubes and frames, then it's uncertainty. And uncertainty is very scary for a child. So we want these things to be true. We need them to be true. It's why our parents will never be wrong, right? So whatever, if my mother says I'm not important, I'm not. I just have, because if she isn't correct, and she doesn't know what's going on, I'm just this little thing. That's a very scary place. So just, again, psychology 101, we need these things to be true. So what we do is this thing called looping, and we do this for the rest of our lives, which is where we seek out evidence that that story we wrote is true, right? So I get stood up on a date, I'm not special, right? I get called on a TV show and then they have to cancel. Well, it's just me. They called someone else. I'm not special. Right? Even later, in later years, my mom actually would call, but on the wrong day. Like it wouldn't be my birthday, but she would call on the wrong day. And again, that's evidence, right? I'm like, see, I knew it. But I know consciously now I have the tools to rewrite it, but it's still a trigger. So think about if you haven't rewritten it, how much of it, you don't even see it coming. Again, you make decisions that determine your life just on autopilot. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it makes sense, but I know, and you know this as well, most folks, we don't have any idea that this is happening.
No.
We're just
No.
existing within this construct that we create. I love the fact that you
right.
brought up this sense of certainty that it gives us. No
Yeah.
matter how dysfunctional it might be,
Yeah.
it still helps us to modulate and manage in the environment that we're in.
Yeah.
And so trying to pull yourself from that environment, this is why it can be so sticky and so
Yeah.
difficult
Yeah.
to grow past it, is because we're constantly seeking out evidence to affirm that story that we are, in your case, are not special. And like you said, you've done some amazing things, but you did so much work on yourself to get to those places where
Yeah.
you and I, for one of your birthdays, it was us, we were together,
We did it
hanging
right.
out in St. Louis and, doing all the things. And it was actually my birthday's 2 days before yours.
No.
We got so much stuff
It
in
was
common.
so
It's so
good.
weird.
We share a mom.
So, but every time, when we talk, offline about this stuff and about, your dad trying to kill your mom, it sounds like a cartoon. It sounds
I
like spy
know.
versus spy. Like she keeps getting away, but this is so abnormal, And the thing is, I have very similar stories as well, and it just becomes a kind of just the tapestry or the background of our lives.
Yeah.
Until we can move away from it some or create some separation, we can start to see like, oh, like that's
That is
not normal.
Right. Yeah.
So I want to ask you about what are some steps that we can take to begin to change the story that
Sure.
that may be disempowering us?
Yeah.
Is there anything that folks can start to look to even today, starting now, to start to change those stories?
Oh yeah, there's so much we can do, and you're right. It's funny. I think a lot of us think our stories are normal. Just like in health, people will eat something that they have a food intolerance for, right? Eggs, all the common things. And
7-Eleven nachos with chili and cheese,
well, I mean, you went there.
for example.
For example, yes. And then they'll be like, well, my stomach hurts, but that's normal for me. That's just normal. Do you ever hear anyone say, like, I've had so many clients be like, that's just what happens every time I eat beans or whatever, right? And you're like, but that's actually not normal. And so I think a lot of us do the same thing with our stories. Like I'm writing my memoir now, which is where a lot of this research came into play, because people, if you looked at where I came from and you looked at the life I have, and people do, they'll say, well, how did you get from there to here, from this, little girl who went to school in dirty clothes and smelled in the Appalachian Mountains, to, living a pretty cool life now and hanging out with cool folks like you. And it really is through rewriting my stories. And as I went back and I'm again writing my memoir, it's funny, I turned in this story because I don't know if I've told you this either. So at one time when I first moved to LA, I was homeless. There's like this whole story behind it. But I wrote this for my editor and I sent it to her and she was like, this is so crazy. And I'm like, is it? We just become accustomed to our normal, right? But you can change those things. So your question was how? How do we change that? So I created this method because my head is kind of all over the place and I need things in systems and frameworks and boxes and checklists. That's how I live my life. And so there's an acronym and it's STORY. It's called the Stuck Story coaching method. It helps you get unstuck from your stories, rewrite a new one, create a life so good you're only jealous of yourself, right? So STORY is an acronym because, again, that's the way my mind makes sense of things. And the S is for stuck. So what that means is, what are you stuck around right now? What is something that you want in your life that you don't have? And that could be anything. It could be a better relationship. It could be a relationship in general, any kind of relationship. It could be, I want more money. I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight. It could be anything. What is that thing that you want? And then T is the belief. So why do you believe that you can't have it, right? So let's say you're stuck around money. Let's say you want to make more money. You know you're worth more. You're just not getting it, and you're stuck. So the belief, which is the T, might be like, money's for other people, not for me, right? So I'll use myself as an example. When I grew up, again, was growing up, we didn't have a lot of money. My parents would often say things like, money doesn't grow on trees. Right? That's for other people, not for us. So my belief around money might be that, well, that's for other people, right? That's for other people. Great. So now that we have that, what we want to do is the O, and that's the original event. So where did this belief come from? And we're going to time travel a little bit because a belief is nothing more than an equation. It's made up of 3 E's. It's made up of the event that happened, the explanation, the meaning that you gave it, and the emotion that you felt when you did. Okay. So let's say I remember back in time where I had this dress that I wanted, and I had this little dress that I wanted to wear this little school dance, and I go to my mom and I say, gosh, I really want this dress. I'll do anything. Can I just get this dress? And she says, no, we're not the kind of people that have money for that. That's not for you. Right. Let's just say she says that. Or let's just say she wasn't even that clear. Let's just say she was like, no, money doesn't grow on trees. We can't afford that. No, you can't have that dress. The event that happened was I asked for the dress and she said no. But the explanation I gave it was, oh, that's not for me. That's for other people, right? That's where that, like, I don't deserve it. It's not for me, it's for other people. So that's the original event. And then the explanation I gave was, again, it's for other people. The emotion that I felt was probably disappointment, probably hurt, pain. And so I said earlier, we say that our thoughts create a reality, and they don't. The beliefs do. And the difference is a thought with heavy emotion tied to it, that becomes a belief. And that emotion is what anchors it into your subconscious. That's where we decide that this is true for me, and I'll spend the rest of my life proving it so, right? I mean, thoughts, we have 60,000 thoughts a day. If they really did determine our lives, we'd all be a little loopy right now. It's our beliefs that do that. So I know where I'm stuck. I know the thought that, oh, money's for other people, not for me. I know the event that happened and where that came from now, right? And now we get to the R, which is rewriting it. Really simple, because all we have to do, Shawn, is we just have to be able to give a different explanation to the event that happened. right? And then we'll feel different. So the emotions are different. So let's say I went back in time and I said, gosh, that explanation that I gave my mom saying, no, you can't get this dress, wasn't true. And it was that, she wanted to get it for me as a gift later and surprise me with it. Now, that may or may not be true, but here's the cool thing. It doesn't matter. You know this. Your brain doesn't know the difference between something happening straight in front of you and something that you're just making up, right? So, for example, do you ever get into an argument with someone? You probably haven't because you're just a better person than I am.
Whatever.
But did you ever get into an argument with someone and then, 12 hours later, you're still replaying it and you're thinking of the things you should have said? And if given the opportunity, you will say those things, right? It's like you've got this loop going on. You're like planning your attack. What happens in your body?
You feel the feelings.
Right? Your adrenaline's going. You're like, let's go. Let's go, Angie. And so that's an example of your mind not knowing that Angie's not there and you're not about to throw down, right? Like in your head, you're ready to go. And so your body responds appropriately. Your mind's like, yeah, this is really happening. Let's respond to that. So the same is true for these stories. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. It just has to be different. So I'm just going to go with, my mom was a great mama and she was going to surprise me with this dress later. And that's why she said no. Well, now what emotions do I feel? Well, happiness, love. I feel cared for. So the belief as it existed before that this isn't for me, this is for other people, it can't exist because, again, a belief is an equation, an event that happened, the explanation, and the emotion. So if the explanation has changed and the emotion is different, all that's left is an event where my mom said no to me wanting a new dress. Do you see how that works?
Yeah.
So now there's no more story.
And also, if I can throw this in here as well, this is so powerful, by the way. But even within that explanation, I'm thinking about a similar scenario, and then maybe you change the explanation to being, and this being based on a factual occurrence that happened to me. I was told that this isn't for me, so that I can grow myself and have this transformation, and to create the opportunity to have those things that I always wanted. That I wouldn't have had that kind of fire had I not had a life of not enough or I'm not enough.
Right? You're good at this game.
Thank you. Yahtzee. I've never played Yahtzee
Uno.
Before. But Uno.
Poor man's Yahtzee. Yeah, it's true, though. You can give any explanation that you want because remember, it's your story. You're the only one that's decided that it's true, right? And here's another great explanation, and heaven knows I've used this one from time to time. Maya Angelou used to say, she would say, baby, you ain't even in it. You ain't even in it, right? And this really comes in handy when we go back and we find stories that are really tough to rewrite, Shawn. Like when I go back and I try to rewrite stories around being abused as a child, man, I don't know. How do I explain that? Like, what's the explanation I give for that? And here's what I give. I'm not even in it. It has nothing to do with me. I just happened to be the one that was there. It was all that person. And that person had some stuff going on. And I can't even begin to know what that was. And it doesn't matter, right? I could dive into psychoanalyzing them and being like, well, they were abused when they... It doesn't matter, right? That's none of my business. That's nothing. I'm not even in it. And that's the explanation. And that's enough to set me free from that story so that I can go write a new one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all in how we decide. It's the meaning that we give to things. I'm telling you, as you go home today, somebody pulls out in front of you, you can lose your mind and you can be like, you son of a feather, like whatever you want to do. Or you can be like, wow, I hope that guy's family is okay and there's not an emergency going on, right? You get to choose in every moment. Once you rewrite your story, that brings us to the why in the story, which is your new identity, right? Your identity. Identities are so powerful and they really do run our lives. So as I said earlier, we make up these stories. Like I made up a story, I'm not special. That becomes my identity, right? And my identity for a long time was this poor girl, again, from the Appalachian Mountains, who wasn't very educated, whose own family didn't like her, which meant, how could anyone else, right? That was my identity for a long time. It's not anymore. And you get to choose. So when you go back to where you're stuck, and we said we want more money, who would the person that has the money that you want, how would they act, right? How would they show up every day? Would they sleep in? Would they get up and eat some Cheerios? Would they Netflix for a couple of hours? Would they be on Instagram for another hour? Probably not, right? They're probably up and they're probably about their business, right? So you create a new identity. And again, the beauty is you get to choose. No one tells you, no, you can't be that. Some examples of identities like Kobe Bryant, Black Mamba, right? Muhammad Ali, when he was in the ring, he was the king of the world, right? Like that was his identity. Remember when Beyonce created Sauce Fierce? Eminem created Slim Shady. I'm on a music kick right now. But we do this. We create these identities. And then what did all of these people do? They acted as if that's who they were. I'm sure when Kobe went home, he wasn't like Black Mama to his little baby,
Right.
He was Kobe. He was dad. He was, but on the court, he was very much that identity. And so you get to choose, right? Choose your new identity and then act as if, feel as if, right? You have to show up, like surround yourself as if you already have the money that you say you want, or the relationship, or whatever it is, because that will, of course, bring that in. And the other thing that people get caught up on is how do I get the money? Like, right? How do I get healthy, Shawn? I've tried this thing. It doesn't. How? When you shift your identity and you just become the person that has the money that you want, or has the body or the health, it's amazing. Your mind will open to new thoughts, ideas, programs, products that you wouldn't have even thought about before, because that wasn't the identity. Maybe you weren't resourceful before in your identity, and now you are. So all these new options about the how will all of a sudden appear before you, and then you get to choose.
This is straight facts. I don't this is so right to the point. I'm so grateful that you created this, and this acronym is freaking amazing.
Thanks.
And just as an affirmative point, literally when I was at the lowest point of my life, health is just a total mess, the so-called incurable condition. I chose, after, being told that this is not possible multiple times, I made a decision to get well. And when I made the decision, it was with so much emotion, because I was just done.
Yep.
And what happened within the next couple of weeks is nothing short of what would seem like a miracle. But what really happened was I started to see all the opportunities and all the things that were already around me and available that I simply was not tuned into. So it wasn't a matter of me forcing myself to do something new at that point. My identity shifted to somebody who is going to do whatever it takes to be as healthy as possible. My goal, which I didn't articulate it clearly, but I really felt like I want to be one of the healthiest people on earth, like that. My story is the pendulum's going to swing to the other direction. And so this is so real. It's so simple, but I think that simplicity is why folks might overlook how powerful it is.
It's simple. It's not always easy.
There you go.
Right?
Yeah.
It's when you said decide, that's such a key term. We act like we decide, but we don't. To decide literally means to cut off any other option. So when you decided, you actually decided. You said, I'm going to shift my identity from this person who has no hope, can't get better, to the healthiest person in the world, one of the healthiest people in the world. And you did that, right? Like you completely shifted the way you saw yourself only because you cut off every other option. You changed the way, and then you showed up and acted as if you were already that person. And what happened? You've now become that person, right? Now, I say it's simple because it is. I mean, I just gave you the work. Anyone can do it. But it's not always easy, because we have to go back to these places where we made these beliefs, where we first formed these beliefs. And sometimes that can be painful. And here's the key to that, and I've had to learn this for myself, is you don't have to get down in it and wallow in transformation to experience change, right? Oftentimes we think that we have to go on these big journeys and have these down and out moments, and that's just not true. A lot of us do hit rock bottom. You did with your health, I did with my health, and everything changes. But it really doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to get caught up in the story. I like to say that we bring along the twins oftentimes during transformation, drama and trauma. And we don't have to. We can find a babysitter, right? We can leave those fellas at home. You don't have to get all in it. You really can just be logical.
Yeah. And speaking of logical, this is a big reason I wanted to have you here, is that logically there's a lot of turbulence happening in the world today. And my inbox is flooded with individuals reaching out who are not on their own accord necessarily feeling like, the career that they chose for their lives, they might have invested 10, 20, 30 years into, being an educator, being a coach of a, high school or football or college football team, or a nurse or physicians are all in my inbox right now because they're being forced to make a decision about their own bodies and what they want to do with themselves medically. And they find themselves in a very difficult situation where they're just like, I don't know what else to do. Yeah. And so you were the number one person that I thought about, because you know what it's like to be in a similar situation, but also you've helped so many people who've been in positions like that to not only understand that this is not the end of the story, right, but there's a much better chapter ahead. And this is opening up the possibility. So this goes back to that principle of every challenge, in essence, being pregnant with opportunity. And so let's talk a little bit about that now, especially for folks who are right now experiencing, can you talk about the Great Resignation?
Yeah.
For example, let's talk a little bit about that first.
Yeah, I'd love to. And even before that, I just want to say that, look, none of us can control the cards we're dealt. We just can't. In any given moment, things happen. But we can always choose how to play the hand, right? And I think that's the opportunity right now, is we all get to choose. And yes, there's this thing right now called the Great Resignation. And what's happening is millions of people, not just in the US, but across the globe, are resigning. They're leaving careers that don't fulfill them. They're leaving careers that don't give them meaning. When we went on lockdown and the whole world changed and people were at home, we talked about earlier how they had that chance to be alone with themselves, to really question, who am I? What am I doing with my life? And furthermore, what do I want to do with this one life? I mean, at the end of the day, look, life is too short to do work you don't love with people you don't like for less than you're worth. And that is just the truth. You deserve better than that. And people all over the globe are waking up to that. The other interesting thing that happened is millions of people have become entrepreneurs. They're starting their own business. They're doing it on their own terms. They're taking back control because they're saying, look, no one is going to regulate how I can or can't show up for work. Never again will my income and my family's well-being be in the hands of someone else, where I could lose that job at any given moment, right? And so people really are taking a stand for themselves and rising up. I mean, you hear about it all the time. Restaurants are closing, not necessarily because of COVID, but because they can't find workers to show up and do the job, right? Because people are like, no, I'm not doing that. Lyft is doing the same thing. I mean, if you look at their prices, it's like surge pricing all day because they can't find drivers to do the work, because people are like, no, I want to do something that actually matters in the world. So it's a super exciting time.
Yeah, to say the least. And it's just, again, changing the channel on our perspective about those things. Yeah. And, a big part of my mission, and I know yours is as well, and why we're here collaborative in this moment, is that obviously our world has shifted so much as a result of something that appears to be a health issue. That's what the foundation is supposed to be. Of course, it's kind of
Sure.
mutated into something other than. But at the end of the day, it is our health as a society that has just been this gaping wound
Yeah.
this entire time that hasn't been getting addressed prior to any of this happening.
Right.
And it won't get addressed unless we do something about it.
Right.
And so I've really been galvanized the past, year plus to create that army of change agents who are the ones who are going to transform the health of our community.
Yeah.
And to do that, we need to tap into our passion, our education around these things, and also how can we create a sustainable livelihood doing the thing that we're passionate about.
Yes.
And you know more about this than anybody that I know, and putting so much into creating an entity so magnificent, and also it has so much. It's addressing the number one thing, which is we can get on Dr. Google and learn some things about nutrition. You can pick up some amazing books, Eat Smarter, to learn about nutrition. But how do you turn that into a sustainable livelihood when we're educated for years on things that are largely superficial? 99 for most of us, 99% of it we never use.
Yep.
And we're not taught how to be successful.
Yeah.
Even if we pick up skills in this particular thing. I had collegiate nutritional science classes. I wasn't taught how do you actually sustain your livelihood by teaching and helping people with this thing.
Yeah.
And that's what you've created.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm right there with you. I was trained in clinical nutrition, and I thought, well, if I just put up a sign, they'll come. And I did, and they didn't. I was like, oh, I'm still broke. How am I going to deal with this now? So I hear you. And the other thing, just to touch on what you said about our physical health kind of being at the core of this, I think a lot of people saw it's not just our physical health, it's our mental health.
Yes.
We've talked about that a little bit today, but it's not even just physical and mental, it is our spiritual health. How are you feeding yourself mentally? How are you feeding yourself spiritually with your relationships, the purpose, the meaning of your existence? Why are you here? What are you doing with your life? And I think a lot of us, again, realized that, we need more than food. Food alone won't fix us. Food and exercise and diet, it's great, right? You should eat smarter. You should sleep smarter. You should do all of those things. And yet, I kind of think of it, Shawn, like a three-legged stool, right? So 3 legs: physical nutrition, mental nutrition, spiritual nutrition. If one of those is short, you're going to be a little wobbly. And for most of us, a lot of us, that leg is just missing altogether, right? So we're not balanced, is what I'm trying to say. And so I think that's important just to mention that it's not just the physical health, it's the mental and the spiritual as well. And you're right, when it comes down to being able to do what you're passionate about, I think that's great, right? And for you and for me, it's health, it's nutrition, it's life, right? It's living life. But how do you make a successful career out of it? And I think that's where a lot of people get lost and they get hung up, because they're like, gosh, I want to do what you do, Shawn. That's like the coolest. I want to help people. I want to make my life matter. I want to leave a legacy. I just want to have meaning every day. I want to feel like I'm here for a reason. But I don't know how to make money. I don't know how to run a podcast. I don't know how to I've never started a business. I don't even know any entrepreneurs. And then we stop because we tell ourselves these stories because I don't know anyone, I can't, and that's just not true.
Especially at a time like this, we have the opportunity to surround ourselves with people who have that knowledge base.
Yes.
Literally, you don't have to go through our combined 40 years in this field.
Talking.
Oh, it's nuts. But also from people who are altruistic, but also have the results at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talking heads that people see, on the media who are posing as, people who have this ultimate guide to what health is going to be, how to get us there. And just for me, I'm a big proponent of looking at the track record. How many people are we actually helping to get healthy? How many people are we actually helping to not need fill in the blank medication? How many people are we actually helping to tap into their greatness and start to collectively pour into our society? Because as we've, shared bits of our stories, hurt people, and it's a big part of the reason I do what I'm doing this work today, and I'm doing what I'm doing. is that I know the best way to transform our society is to start raising better humans.
Say it again. Like, just seriously, say it again. And transforming the ones that are already here.
Yes.
Because if hurt people, then healed people heal people. Yes. And that's what we need. Listen, we have seen a lot in the last, year and a half, 2 years. I don't know, I've lost track. We've seen things like gender identity issues. We've seen racial concern. Like, we've seen a lot of people hurting. There's a lot of pain out there, and there's a lot of healing that needs to be done. And I believe this is the way you do it, right? You heal physically, you heal mentally, you heal spiritually, and then you help other people do the same, right? And so, like, what we do at the Institute of Transformational Nutrition is just that. We teach physical nutrition, mental nutrition, and spiritual nutrition. And better than that, we teach it into a system that anyone can sit down and deliver to someone else, like a coach can deliver this to a client, and see a real transformation in that person physically, mentally, and spiritually, right? Like I told you, I love frameworks because that's the only way I can get my crazy head around things. I just shared with you the story, right? The stuck story coaching method. It's really simple. You just go through it step by step. Now you can take that, you can teach Anne, you can teach your children, right? And then they can do it. And we do the same thing at ITN for our coaches, because what I see, and stop me if I go on a tangent here, but I get turned up about this. What I see a lot of people doing in the field of coaching is not coaching. It's cheerleading, or it's consulting. Most people want to show up and help other people, especially with health, right? But they think, well, I don't know everything. What if they ask me a question and I don't know? Shawn, he knows, he's the expert, but I don't know everything. They're afraid that they won't be able to help people. And so what we did, and that's the worst, right? I mean, think about as passionate as you are about health and you thought you couldn't help someone, like that's just knife to the heart stuff. So what we did was we created a system where there's no guesswork. We have a form on the front end. We understand what's going on. On the back end, we have what we call a decoder, and it creates protocols that are automatically done for you. Our coaches give it to them. The clients get results, and that's why our coaches are the highest paid, the most respected, with the most accredited school, because we get people the results that they've been longing for so long with no guesswork, right? The other thing is, man, building a business, again, I didn't come from a background of entrepreneurs or business. I didn't know anything about anything. And I had to figure it out. And you did too, that like when we were coming up, there was no courses that you could take on Teachable, like Skillshare. That was just not a thing. I mean, the internet didn't even exist the way we have it. And so we've had to figure it out, right? And so again, like what we do at ITN, because of my system head, we put it into a 6-step business building blueprint that you go through step by step by step. And the first step is your mindset. It's the stories you tell, because if you don't get those out of the way, I can tell you how to write best-selling books. You can too. We've done it. I can tell you how to get on TV. You can too. We've done it. Like, I can tell you all of those things, but if you still have this underlying story running, it's not going to matter. You're going to self-sabotage every single time. So anyways, I'm going on and on here because I get so excited about this, because yes, people have these big dreams. They want to make their life matter. They want to have a career where they get paid what they're worth and do work that they love, but it seems impossible. And I'm here to tell you that it isn't, and that you absolutely can do it. And you're right. I've trained tens of thousands of coaches on this same method. So yeah.
I believe that this time, and I share this with you, everything that we've done thus far in our careers have led to this moment right now.
That's right.
And being able to uplift and support this next generation of coaches, of healers, of game changers, to write the books, to do the speeches, to change media, and this is offering us such a great opportunity, but we've got to step into it. And so another really remarkable thing, and this is a true story, just being around you and ITN, this is where we've collected some of the people who are closest in our lives. For me personally, and Craig on our team right now,
I was just thinking of him.
who's listening to this review and is like, he's talking about me. ITN, Craig's a student from ITN, and my wife's best friend, Jaleesa, we met her at ITN's event when I came out there. And it's just, you just are a magnet for amazing people. And the teachers themselves,
Oh my gosh.
it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. There's nothing else like it, you
Yeah.
know? So whether it's in the domain of nutrition, whether it's in the domain of somebody is wanting to, you know, write a best-selling book or to create a top podcast,
Yeah.
you know, you get to hear hello from those voices who can actually tell you how these things are done, because truly it is a formula. And the great thing about it at the end of the day, because we might think, well, I don't have whatever it takes. I promise you do.
Yeah.
I promise you
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about this time today, is that there is no one else like you who's ever existed before in human history. That's your unique gift already. And we talk about how to bring that out, bring that forward. And so we're actually, again, being that we want to help the truly transformation right now of our society, we can't keep outsourcing this to other people to fix this thing. It's up to us.
Yeah. We tried. It's not working. I don't know if y'all have noticed.
Right. Just look at the results. And this is why we're going to be doing a meetup coming up here soon. And I want everybody to run. Don't walk, run. Right now, reserve your spot for this very special meetup. I'll give you the URL. It's themodelhealthshow.com/take control. Themodelhealthshow.com/take control. You get to hang out with Cynthia and I live. Can you tell them a little bit about what we're going to be doing?
Yeah. So first of all, take control. Wow.
Yes.
Take control. I love it. Yeah. Pull over if you're driving, whatever you need to do, grab your seat. Yeah. So we're going to be walking people through, how do you take back control after what we've been through? And not just now, but for your future, for your family's future, for your loved ones' future. How do you become that change that you're tired of complaining about, wishing someone would do something about it? Well, I had a coach one time tell me this, and I'll say it here. She said to me, "You're as much as somebody as anybody." So if you're looking for that change, be the change that you want to see, right? So we're going to be talking about all of that. We're going to be talking about physical, mental, spiritual nutrition. We're going to be walking people through how they can create the life of their dreams, the career of their dreams. It's this really cool exercise. We time travel in it. You can hop in a DeLorean. It's super fun. And then we're going to be talking about what are the keys to success in this field in a way that's simple, where you're not burning out or spending all day on Instagram or losing all your relationships in the process, right? So it's just a real value-packed conversation that we just want to get some people together and talk about the change in the world and how they can be a part of that.
Yeah. And we're going to be sharing something special with you. And I decided I'm not going to tell them what it is.
You did? Okay.
That you're not going to hear about anywhere else. This is exclusive for the Model Health Show audience. So again, go to themodelhealthshow.com/take control. It's coming up super soon. All right. You've only got a few days to get registered. So do that today. This is our time to actually make change happen. And, you know, just having the opportunity to have you as a friend and an inspiration. And when you're talking about the wobbly stool of life, you know, we got to address all these things: physical, mental, spiritual health. It made me think about the tables at the Dodgers game we just went to.
Stop talking.
They were literally like sideways.
Yeah, one of us had to hold the table while the rest of us were eating. We had to take turns.
It was an adventure, to say the least. We had a great time. First time we ever saw, I know me firsthand, and I've watched, countless hours of baseball, but 3 people ran onto the field.
That was crazy.
They had a coordinated thing.
They did.
They were but the security guards,
They weren't playing.
they prepared their entire lives for that moment. All right, they were going to beat the crap out of these people. So it was an adventure, to say the least. And we got to hang out and connect, and also talk about what we're going to be doing for all of our amazing audience here at the Model Health Show. So really, really excited about what's coming up.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I feel like right now, you said like now's the time. I mean, even talking about these 3 people who were all on like 3 different parts of the field, and they had signs that they were holding up, and I've never seen that either. But here's the thing, we're just at a point now where people are like, why not? why not? I have something to say. And if I have to run onto the field at Dodger Stadium and just get body slammed for saying it, like I'm going to say it. I'm going to do it. I think that so many of us have this passion right now, and we see just how short and how precious and fragile life is. And there's a lot of us who see things in the world that are like, that ain't right. And I'm going to use my voice and my life to make it right, or at least try, right? I'm going to be showing up. They'll know I was there. And that's what's so cool about, again, this time that we live in is we have those opportunities, and your audience is lucky because they have people like you who've been that leader and continue to be that leader for them. And I know we're not going to spoil any surprises, but if they just knew how much of a leader and how you're about to come through for them and really show up, like, wow, it's next level. Like, I'm going to get a little teary-eyed because it's so powerful. So
Let's go. Again, themodelhealthshow.com/take control. You are truly, again, you're one of my favorite humans.
Same.
We have debated many times trying to figure out, do we actually have the same parents?
I know.
We've never seen each other's parents, so who knows? But
I'm the light version.
I've got the
You
melanin.
took all the melanin.
I've got the melanin from, and again, 2 days apart. I mean, come on, it's like, it's a little spooky.
Yeah.
But
DNA test.
what's so funny at the game when we were talking about what we're going to be doing coming up, literally someone hit a home run.
That's right.
Do you remember that? And we're like, what sign?
Man, the universe was talking to us that night.
And when we were talking about the negative force, some other stuff, that's when the nuts ran on the field.
Right.
And just everything went crazy. Just like, what sign? So doubling down on giving, doubling down on service, doubling down on compassion, doubling down on education and integrity. All the things, and you represent that, and I appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you for saying that, and thank you for being my friend and for seeing that I do matter. I appreciate you so much. And really, truly, Shawn, like, for you, I mean, it's not like you came from a silver spoon in your mouth. I mean, you have quite the story. And for someone to come from where you came from and to be this leader, I mean, you have changed so many lives and will continue. You don't even know the people's lives that you've impacted. There are stories you'll never hear. There are people's lives you've saved that you'll never know, just because you decided this is my time and it was worth it to you, and you just cast the fear and you showed up for yourself. So I just think it's great that it's not just you showing up and saying the words, you're living this life, and it's just so special. So it's a pleasure to be your friend.
Well, I feel 10x the same about you. And we've got some awesome stuff coming up, everybody. Again, go to themodelhealthshow.com/take control to hang out with Cynthia and I, coming up super soon. So go and do that right now. I appreciate you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you, Shawn.
Hey, if you like this video, make sure to check out this video right here to optimize your mindset.
Most people suffer from an attention deficit disorder and an intention deficit disorder. So their mind is all over the place. Their mind has been hijacked by worry, fear, anxiety,